I want to welcome everybody to the webinar today. My name is Rick Long, and I'm the Senior Developer here at Team DME. And we have been working hard on the update that I'm going to show you today. Some of you have already received it, and I'm going to also not only show it to you, I'm going to give you some, some tips and show you how to take maximum advantage of it. Before we begin though, I'd like to take just a couple of minutes. We're using Citrix's GoToWebinar software, and so what you should see is kind of a little orange button up in the top, which allows you to minimize and maximize the GoToWebinar software if it's overlapping some of the presentation. And if you would like to ask a question, you can go down to the chat or the question area and ask your questions. And we'll either mostly address those at the end of the webinar, after we kind of get through the main part of our presentation. Before we begin, I'd like to maybe take a poll and kind of get an idea of who we have on the call, and that is, do you have the modernization currently? Now, the way that you can tell, or the easy way that you can tell, is the modernization has none of the cartoons that we have in the legacy application. And you can kind of, that's the easy way to tell. You can also, look at the version number, but that can be a little misleading right now. We're trying to keep that version number similar to the old, to the original. Give you just a minute to answer the question, and we will close the poll. Hold on just a second. Close, and let me share that with you. All right, as you can see, we have about, 40%, 37% of the people who are currently on the webinar with us have the modernization already. So wow, I was expecting a little bit lesser number than that. I thought about 25% of our customers had it currently, but that's great. You'll be able to immediately put into action some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. Let's ask one more question, and this is going to be only for the people who have modernization. Okay, if you don't have modernization, please don't answer the question. But if you have modernization, do you love it? Yes, no, or haven't had it long enough to decide. Okay. This is a little bit of a cheating question because we've really given it to you. We really haven't shown you all of the features and functionality that the new modernization has, and so that's the purpose for the webinar that we're doing today. So give you just a minute to to answer the question there, and we'll close the poll and share that with everybody. And we've got let's see, 6% of the people say they love it, 19% don't love it, and 75% say they just haven't had it long enough to decide. And that's totally understandable. As I said, this has been a difficult update for us in the respect that previously we would have an update and we'd basically give it to everybody, we'd do a webinar, and then we would show you how to use it. It has been will be a much longer rollout, probably 6 months or more from the time the first people are getting it until the time that everybody gets it, because it's a lot more work on our part. And so again, we've had to kind of give it to people, before we've really been able to give you a chance to show you what it really represents, what it really can do. So totally understandable. All right, well, let's jump right into the webinar then and show you what modernization is looking like. All right, I'm going to show my screen here. Give me just a second. It's not allowing me to show my screen for some reason. Oh, I probably have to hide the poll. There we go. Okay. And show my screen. All right. So this is going to be the modernization. First of all, I want to address, why did we do modernization anyway? What was the purpose? Well, first of all, we were finding a lot of our customers were buying these high resolution monitors, 4K and 8K, and the perception was that we weren't, we couldn't. It just didn't look good on that screen. Hold on just a second. All right. Anyway, high resolution monitors, the perception was, or the visual representation was that it just didn't look good on those high resolution monitors. And so anyway, that was one of the big reasons. The second reason is, that basically we allowed you to increase the fonts, the font size, but as you increase the font size, it would start to make the forms look bad, but then it would also even, you would also even see things disappearing. For example, this is the legacy package, and this font has been increased about 40%, okay, to about a 14 pitch. And what you can see here is that the font is bigger, the edit box is bigger, of course, but the form itself does not change. In other words, the spacing between one edit box and another edit box has not changed. And so as those things get bigger, they start to overlap. And even over here with the labels, the physician here, the phone fax down here, as that font gets bigger, it's falling off the edge of the form. If you take a look at some of the grids, the rows did get bigger and the grid got bigger lengthwise, and so that looks pretty good. But the tab text did not get any bigger, the title text didn't get any bigger, and so it was a little bit of a mixed bag. This is the same form under the modernization, again about a 14 pitch, which is about a 40% increase in the font size, and you can see the form itself is just simply much bigger. The spacing between the labels, in other words, the spacing between the last and the address, are exactly the same or similar. They are all scaled up. The entire form is scaled up. And as you can see, even when we go to the grid is much bigger, and the button itself gets bigger as well. And so everything about the form, it maintains the same look and the same feel that we designed it to have. And so it makes it look much better. Okay. Well, what does that entail? Basically, in order to accomplish this, what we have had to do is basically start over with all of our visual processes. The libraries that we use to build the legacy package really didn't support these new high resolution monitors, the new scaling, and so we had to eliminate those libraries and purchase new libraries to serve as a foundation that we could build on. And so as far as the visual look of TeamDME, we had to start completely over. Every grid, every form, every dialogue has been touched and changed. In fact, the only things that are the same are the calculations internally. We've put a lot of effort into, those allowable amounts. In other words, calculating the 80% of the primary and the 20% of the secondary and some percentage to the, to the patient after that. All of that has not changed. The reporting has not changed, but everything else has, as well as the pixelization. You'll notice in the, let me just make this big so you can see it. Notice the icon up there, how jagged it is. Basically, it's a bitmap graphic that has been increased in size, and it just doesn't look good. Whereas if you look at, let me go back to the modernization, you look at the new graphics in that same size, and they are very smooth, very sharp. And so that's the pixelization that I'm referring to. Okay, what else has changed? Well, behind the scenes, we're using a new new version of Firebird. We were using Firebird 3, now we've gone to Firebird 4. You won't see any differences there, but what you will hopefully find is that it's faster. Probably about between 5 and 10% faster. It's hard to perceive that, but that is going to give us some abilities moving forward to really give you I think some significant benefits. For example, replication. We will be able to replicate your data from one data center to the next, which basically means that even if something catastrophic happens in the middle of the day, you don't lose everything up till to noon, for example. You lose everything until the last time you press the OK button to save something, and that's going to be a huge improvement. All right, well, let me show you some of the benefits. One of the biggest things that people seem to like is the customization on the forms. For example, you look at the user settings. Previously, we had the ability to let you choose your font and to choose your size. And I was supposed to show you the size going from 10 to 14, but I already had it at 14. So this is an example of the font size at a 10. My monitor is a little bit bigger, and so I'm going to increase that. And what I like to do is I like to see the physician grid and even a physician. Let me just pick one out here. Okay, so there is our physician. And so as we change the font size, we can see the changes that it's making to both the grid and the edit form. And we'll go to 14 as our, whoops, yep, there, go to 14. So you can see that it has physically changed not only the font, but also the size of the form that's needed there as well. And the big improvement is the skin. Okay, this is the TeamDME skin that you're looking at, and some of the initial feedback we got from users is that's bright. Okay, a lot of white, a lot of bright colors being shown. And with the skin, we've got about 70 different choices for you to make. This is kind of like the theme on your phone. It doesn't change anything as far as the functionality, but it's simply a look and feel. For example, some of the things that I like to pick from is the the seasons. We're currently in summer, and so there's a summer 2008, which is kind of a beachy theme. You can see, sunshine and clouds and beach and the sand, and the drop-down buttons are butterflies, and the check boxes are leaves on the trees. You can go to a fall theme, which is listed, I think, as pumpkin. And basically it's, kind of it's more, in my opinion, a Halloweenish theme. Your check boxes are little coffins, and the drop down are, skulls. Something more traditional might be an Office 2016, colorful theme. Or let's take a look at one of my favorites is called Caramel. And so it's just a nice theme. You'll also notice at the same time that, in order to institute or to add skins, we've changed the way that our required fields and our inactive fields or read-only fields are shown. For example, name is a read-only field, and you can see that it's kind of dimmed as opposed to an active field like the physician last name. The required fields, where we used to have I believe what's called cyan, which is kind of a blue-green color. We can't do that anymore, and so what we've done is we basically bolded the labels. So the ID is required, the last name is required, but we haven't changed the fields at all. We've allowed them to flow with the skin or with the theme. Now, if you increase the font size and you got your forms saved at a particular location, that may not be good, because increasing the font size, we will try to pick what size the form needs to be, and so you might want to reset the screen locations and sizes. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. 2, you can move them around as your as your choice is. Okay. One of the things that we have found happening is with the ability to make all these changes to the forms, that some customers get their forms kind of moved out of the way and they can't find them again. For example, if you drag this form down below the taskbar, it's literally sitting below the taskbar, but it's awfully hard to find. Well, we've added a new option under Windows and Center Open Windows. And what this does is this will basically put all the forms, on your main window so that you can find them again. And then there's that physician edit that we were looking for. All right, let's take a look here. Let's talk about some of the usability enhancements. First of all, one of the big ones is that searches are now case insensitive, meaning that you don't have to worry about how someone has put the data in when you're searching for it. For example, where this came from is a customer said, my coworker wants to put all of their names in uppercase, and when I go to search, I'm typing upper and lowercase, which is what you should be doing, and I can't find what he's talking about. And so now, whether you are using the search, for example, well, I need to do a lowercase, for example, so there's long, and you can see that it has search and found the long, even though the case which I used was lowercase, and the case that it was actually in is capcase. Same thing works when you're in the filter. Okay, you can say where the last name, for example, is equal to, and I'm going to lowercase the long here. Click OK. Click OK. Let me clear that. And so there's all the longs. Okay. based on the filter, even though the case that I put in was wrong. So that's basically all through the system. You can do that. The other big thing is, and let me clear that filter. Now the searches are no longer are transaction independent now. What does that mean? Okay. Previously, for example, when you when you opened your customer table, it loaded all your customers, or let's talk about physicians. It loaded all your physicians, okay? And then when you were searching, you typed in long, it would just simply push you down in that existing list down to long. If your coworker added a new physician long, that did not show up in your list until you refreshed, okay? And so as a result of that, a lot of our customers were basically, kind of refreshing every time before they would search, because they didn't want to take the chance that someone had added that, since they didn't want to think about it, in other words. And so they would refresh, search, and that just kind of became their their behavior. And so that was very inefficient on the database. It took more time. And so now we've eliminated that as a need. For example, when I type long now, okay, it's going to position me in the list to the longs. Now, what it has done, even if my coworker 2 seconds ago added long, it's going to be in my list, because it's basically going to the database every time to grab the very latest information available. And so we've eliminated the need really for you to refresh really ever, okay? Now, I like to call this a magic search, because basically it's searching, previously you would click on the last first column and then search, and that was the column that you were searching in. Now it doesn't matter, okay? Because when you type long up here, it's going to find things in the last first column. In the contact, you'll notice that Susan Hopkins does not match long, but her contact is long. And so basically it has found that. It's going to find long anywhere in your grid, okay? For example, here it is in the email. Here it is, well, that's the last name, so it's going to be there, obviously. But anywhere it's going to find that is going to show up in your search. And so we'll call that the magic search. If you want the search to work like it previously did, we still have that ability. You'll notice down here, we've got a column below the title, and that's kind of your, we'll call it quick searching, okay? For example, I can go here and I can click long, and it's going to search, in this case, only within the last first column for for long. If we wanted to go to the last, or we wanted to go to the address, then it would only search within those columns as well, okay? So that's kind of what you're accustomed to previously. You'll also notice this little ABC, and you can see the icon here is on the B. That's actually searching within the name. Typically, what is the default is the begins with choice. In other words, I'm only interested in things where it begins with. The contains is great for if you have something like, type in Steve. It's going to find not only the word Steve, but also where Steve is a part of the name. For example, in Stephen, in the final two. And so you've got some choices, and those also will depend on the kind of data that you're looking at. For example, if you go to the birth date, you're not going to have a contains, because that wouldn't make sense in a date. You've only got equals, not equals, greater than, less than, etc. So it's also the kind of data that we're looking at as well. All right. Now, the other thing, just to make you aware of, Now the searching is much faster. We had talked about the refreshing. We looked at some of our larger customers. Assuming the customer was refreshing and searching, that was taking about 14 seconds on some of their customer databases, versus now it's just a little over 1 second. Order list was taking 15 seconds, and now it's taking just a little over 1 second. In fact, 1.17 seconds. So, just a little fraction. So we're talking about 10 times faster searching, 12 times faster searching. That's a huge difference. And again, eliminating the refresh, I think that's huge. Okay, let's talk about some of the grids. We could always move columns within the grids. In the old system, for example, I've already moved it, but let's say we want that contact right up beside of the last first, and we want to know who we're going to contact. Maybe we want to pull the phone number over there. You can, totally move any of those, that you're interested in, but also you can now add and delete columns. Okay, in other words, I may not be interested at all in address 1, address 2, so I can click on this little star button at the top of the grid, and I can go to address 1 and address 2, and you can see right on the screen those are being eliminated as I'm typing. I can also add columns. We don't have city and state listed, and so I'm fixing to use those in my demonstration, so I'm going to check those. So I can see city and state now, and we have not added we've not updated all of the grids to accommodate that. So we're going to be adding more columns to the grids, even after we release modernization. But just like you could previously, you can click on a particular column to sort the list by that column. For example, there's contact, and now everything is alphabetical by contact. I'm going to see everything by state, and so everything is Alabama, Arkansas, California, etc. Okay, you can even sort on multiple columns, just like you could in the previous version by holding down your Shift key. For example, there is, let me just show you that as an example. There's Alabama, and you can see the city is not alphabetical. Montgomery should be above Selma. But if I hold down my Shift key, click city, now both of the columns are listed, and now it's by state first, because it was the first column, but now it's sorted Montgomery and then Selma, just like it should be alphabetically. So you can continue to refine your sorting if you want to in that way. Now, not only can we sort, but there's also something now called grouping. Okay, for example, I'm going to eliminate the sort, and so now we're in last name, first name order, but I can take state, and you'll notice here we got a listing here, drag a column header here to group by that column. And so if I want to sort or group my physicians by state, I'm going to grab that and I'm going to drop it kind of in that area. So now you can see we're grouped by state, and what that does is that basically I have a few customers, a few physicians who have no state, but then Alabama, Arkansas, all the way down to Tennessee. For example, I can click on the arrow, and I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 physicians within the state of Alabama. And you can see again, just like we saw the city, the city is not alphabetical. We didn't ask it for that. We can still do that if we click on city. Now it is grouped by city, okay? Or we can add city to the group, okay? And so now we're grouped by state and city. So when we want to look at something, we click on the state, And then we also click on the city. For example, in Athens, Alabama, we only have one physician. In Estafort City, we have one physician. And so you can see it. And again, we can sort, for example, in Kentucky, we have Bowling Green, and we have several, but the zip is not alphabetical. So maybe we want it sorted by the zip. So a lot of functionality that you can use to sort your grids, to group your grids, etc. Once you're finished with a grouping, we can just grab that, drag it off to the side, drop it on nothing, and it is eliminated from the grouping. Okay. Then let's talk about row selection. Now, previously, we had this little checkbox over here, and of course let me sort it by first name, last name. It freaks me out when I don't see that. We've got that again. Now, this is a company-wide selection. In other words, if I select, Sam Evans, it is selected for everybody in the company. That's great if you're working with other people, okay? And we had, some feedback. We had, for a short time, taken that away because we didn't think people were using it, but we had some people who called us and said, hey, that's really helpful. So this is sorting or selecting by the company. So if I want to select that physician, this physician, this physician, this physician, okay? Now, you can print, post, whatever you want to do. You'll notice that this has nothing to do with that selection unless you filter on it, okay? Which would be the button up here, quick filter. Now, only the physicians that I or other people in the company have checked are going to be listed, okay? Now, if you go to post or print, you're only going to see those, looks like I've got about 7 selected. You're only going to see those physicians, okay? Now, let's clear that out. Okay, those are still selected, okay? But now I want to show you the other way to select physicians. Forgot to silence my phone. And that is per user, okay? And the way to do that is, for example, we're going to pick, how about Mark Anderson? And that's just to click on him, okay? I've selected that row by clicking on him. I click on another row and, it basically changes that color. This is all based on your theme. Changes that color to let you know that row is selected. But if I hold down the shift button, then it's going to select all the customers between what I have selected and where I'm going to click. So let's say I'm going to hold down the shift key and click Doug Beatty, okay? It's selected all the physicians between Mark Anderson, which is where I was, and Doug Beatty, okay? And so now I can do something with those. But if you wanted to instead select specific physicians in this example, use the control key. For example, there's Mark Anderson, Pat Angle, Stephen Averett, Blackburn. Now, you'll notice that these, again, I've selected 4 physicians. They're highlighted. If I were to print, it'd print the entire list because I've not done anything with it yet, okay? But if you go up here to the quick filter button, the company-wide is the checkbox. This is the user, so no one else in the company has these physicians selected. They could, the person who's working next to me could select these 4, or they could select a different 4 or anything else. This is per user. Okay, so if you're working by yourself, you don't want to have what you do affect anybody else, then use the user selection. And you can click on the filter button up here and then print or post or whatever you want to do, and you're only affecting your, in this case, physicians, or you could be working with payments or orders or anything else. So in this example, you're not affecting anyone else. You're only affecting your workstation. Okay, I'm going to clear that filter out. And so that's the difference between company-wide and per user, and that's new functionality. All right. One thing I wanted to show you. Let's go to a customer just to see that. And let's go. Whoops. Long and Christina. There is one other thing I was supposed to show you while we were in the physicians, and that is the new physician wizard. Let me go back to physicians for just a second. Physician wizard. Previously, in the legacy package, basically when you're searching for physicians, you're not talking to anyone but Team DME, okay? And that was, a disadvantage in the respect that basically we had to constantly keep that physician database matched with CMS, which was very difficult to do. And we didn't try to do that all the time, but basically, it could get 6 months out of date, okay? And we'd have a customer call us and say, hey, I can't find this physician. Well, now we're connecting directly to CMS. And so if CMS added a new physician yesterday, it's going to appear in your list today, okay? Same thing with the PCOS validator. The PCOS information is now going directly to CMS, and basically we're not trying to do anything for it. That was functionality that we could not do, previously, because CMS didn't have an interface for us to use. But recently they've released that interface, and so now we can. And so that's the difference. So now when I type in Long in Tennessee and I click Find Physician, these are all the physicians as of this moment that CMS has active, where the last name is Long and the first name is, and the state is Tennessee. Now, and you can, of course, pick through those just as you used to be able to do. And again, the same thing with the PCOS data. It's all live now with CMS. All right, one of the last things I want to show you is that customer I mentioned. And the drop downs now, and I'm going to use the physician as an example. I'm going to add a new physician. You'll notice that we've got a little drop down here, and we've also got the ellipse button, which you're very familiar with. The drop down is basically gives you the ability to search if you know what you're looking for. For example, I know that Long, Mark, let's say Michael, that's my physician in my database. So you can find it, tab, you've selected it, off you go. If you still need to search for it, you're not quite sure what it is, then you've always got that ellipse button, which brings up the physician list, just like you're always been familiar with. So, and we got that, pretty much everywhere. One of the things I also wanted to show you as well is our new, one of the things I'm really proud of is we have introduced a new error control system, which basically gives us the ability, and this is what it looks like, if there happens to be an error in the system. Previously, we kind of had to depend on our customers, there was an option, would you like to share this with Team DME, yes or no? And I forget exactly how it was worded. But basically now, every error is coming to us, okay? And so as a result, we can very quickly track those, figure out what the problem is, and that's a big thing with this new error library that we purchased. It basically will show us, generally exactly where the error came from. And it's allowed us to find problems and fix them much faster. And so, our, errors have been, hugely reduced that customers are seeing. So we're very happy about that. We've deliberately not added a lot of functionality to the system. There are a few things that have been added. For example, claims history, one of the big ones is customers said, hey, we need the ability to reverse a claim. And so basically, if you've got a claim on the screen there, you can go to claims history and you can actually reverse that. What that will do, let me rephrase it. What that does is that basically creates an order that's like a negative of everything that claim represents. Okay, that claim is still in history, but if you approve and post the reversing order, it's like it never happened. And we're also going to, add an ability. Customers are also asking us for basically a copy a claim. In other words, a patient is getting the same thing they got 3 months ago, and so I'm just going to copy that claim. And so you'll see that shortly. All right. Well, the big question then is, when will you get it? As you can see from our poll, a lot of people have already gotten it, and probably about 25% of our customers. We're adding about 6 to 8 customers. I say, customers per day, and so it's being rolled out pretty quickly. It will still take us months to get to everyone, because we not only have to to give you the new program, we've also got to convert your data from Firebird 3 to Firebird 4, and so it's time consuming on our part. All of that is happening in the evenings, pretty much after you have quit working, and so you'll just come in one day and you'll see the modernization. So we're moving as quickly as we can. We're going to have a poll at the end of the survey. If you loved what you've seen and you want to get it, you want to be a priority to get the new version, let us know that. We'll be happy to to see what we can do about that. We're not getting a lot of questions. Another reason we're not rolling it out just as fast as we can is we want to make sure that we're keeping our support department able to answer your calls if you have questions. Most of the questions that we're getting are, I used to be able to search for a date this way. How do I do it in the new grid? And that's kind of typical. We've actually released the claim history and claim pending, in the legacy, and so you've already had the new grids for 6 months or more. So it's not been a huge learning curve for most people. So we're quite happy about that. All right, let's take a look at some questions and see what people are asking. Is the webinar going to be available for staff unable to attend? Absolutely. You can go to our website, help.teamdme.com, And I think we're also going to put that on a kind of an exit email as well. And I'll kind of make that pop up in TeamDME if you were unable to attend. All right. Here's a good question. What does the reset screen locations set to? All right. Basically, if you were to reset the screen locations, and what he or she is talking about there is reset screen locations, it's going to go back to the default locations, okay? And especially if you're increasing the font size, I would suggest checking that box because the forms themselves need to be bigger to accommodate a bigger font. For example, let's go back down to a 10, and oops, I reset it to the default. Okay, all right, let's look at the physicians, and these are the default locations, okay? So I'm gonna take that, default location, and you can see that it's just barely big enough to accommodate the identity tab, okay? But what that's gonna do, I'm gonna click OK, I'm gonna save that, and now I'm gonna change my font back to the 14, okay, save that, and now when I go back to physician and open up that physician, the form size has not changed because that has been saved. That was your preference, and so we did not reset it. And so as a result, it's squinched the last to a little bitty, and the first is little bitty, and the city and state is little bitty. And so that's why I recommend that you reset your form settings. So let's reset those, okay? And as a result, they will go back to the default locations at that point. And when they go back to the default locations, it will kind of try to find a good size. You'll notice that this is much bigger, and now when you go to the identity, it all fits in the same area. All right. Okay. Question, are you going to show us how to navigate? I think I have. If I haven't, you might clarify your question. Does that work in medical orders too? Everything that I've shown you with the grids works everywhere now, okay? What we've done is basically we released these grids in claims pending and claims history, probably a year ago or more. And that was to kind of prepare you for when we moved the grids everywhere. And now we have moved them with the modernization everywhere. And so when you look at, they specifically asked about the orders. Notice too how fast the orders, popped up just as an example. I don't have a lot of data, but you used to be able to, count a couple of Mississippis. But anyway, yes. So if you're looking for, long, you're searching, notice only one long it found in the customer name. That's that magic search. But if you kind of cursor over, we can see, those first three. Okay, the user was Rick Long, and that's the reason that, probably those first three were popping up. And so, the magic search finds, what you're searching for anywhere in the grid. And, one thing I don't even know is what if you hide a column? Is it going to show you that as well? I think it would. All right, let's see. Physician Wizard. What if CMS has a different address than the location we are dealing with locally? Some physicians have multiple locations, so we have them loaded twice in TeamDME. Well, once you load a physician into TeamDME, then it's no longer connected to CMS. What we're talking about with the physician wizard would be primarily adding new physicians to your system. So I don't think that would apply. When you're entering a new medical order and you type in a patient's name, can it either show the patient's address or policy? Okay, that's a good suggestion. We'll look at that. Definitely, if you click on the ellipse button, it's going to show you that information. But I think they're asking if the drop down itself could show you that. Oh, here's a great question. Is the calculator working when posting payments? And I think what the question is pretty much any of the dates you have in the system. We used to have our own calculator, and for some reason you couldn't use the arrow keys to move between months. And now the date calculator, let me find a date here to deal with. Okay, here we go. And now the date is the Windows date system. I think that's what they're talking about. And of course, you can use the, whatever Windows provides. For example, there's the arrows to move between months. And so, there you go. If they're talking about the calculator, if that's not what we're talking about, maybe give me an additional information. Okay. The red and green flags that are in the legacy version of claims pending, will they be available as a column in this new version? Yes, they should be exactly the same, as in the legacy version, available as a column. What about the error saying someone else is in the customer or invoice I need? Okay, Lindy, I'm not sure what, you probably want to address that one to support. If two people are trying to edit the same customer or the same invoice, it will actually let you pull it up two different times, but I think what it lets you know that second time is, it locks the records you're looking at, just so that you can't both edit the same, customer, the same patient. Okay, Samuel is asking, will this fix disappearing screen windows and cutoffs and weird overlaps? And I think what you're referring to, Samuel, is that the font issue that I talked about, where we were, looking at, if you increase the font size, things were appearing off screen and, it was cutting off, and that's absolutely what this is supposed to do. Okay, someone is asking about have reports been fixed to print and date of service order. Nothing about the reports has changed or should have changed. Let me put it that way. So if you have an issue with the reports, then no, it has nothing to do with that. Okay, is there a way to make the comment section go to the most current comment instead of the oldest? Okay, I think what you're referring to is I thought it did that already, but let's take a look. Type long. And go to comments. And let's see. Yeah, it started out, well, hold on a second, let me do that again. All right, Nick's telling me it should save the sort. You can now sort by ascending or descending inside the comments. All right, so if I want, it looks like I don't have a sort. You can see I don't have a sort selected, so let me save that sort. Okay, so now it's showing my latest comment in my example is 2013. So now let's roll up to the top and let's exit out. I think it does that. So Nick's saying it saves the sort inside. Let's see if it does that. Okay, so it's starting out at 2015, but 2013 is the last one. So I don't know if that may be because of the size of my window. It is, you know, almost at the bottom, but it looks like I have to move my window up to this size for it to show the very bottom. Okay, that may be something worth checking out. Let's see. On the setting, last name of the physician remains cut off. Yes, that is correct. If you have a very small window, for example, let's go back to physician. Where is it? Okay, and there's John Abbott. Okay. And again, you know, you'll notice Abbott is cut off. Again, that is because the window size that we have saved is very small. You know, if you make the window size just a little bit bigger, I would think it would be, come back up there. Let's look at that again. Okay, yes, if your window size is big enough to accommodate it, you know, it will not cut that off. But if your window size is very small, then it has to try to fit within whatever window size you choose. All right, is the quote button new? I don't know where you were referring to that, maybe in the customer and long and, oh, Nick's saying it might be new on the Outlook bar over here. Okay, where my cursor is. Now, that assumes not everyone has the quote module. So, you know, if you're interested in, basically the quoting module allows you to create an order, but it's not really an order until someone approves it. In other words, it's a quote. That's, you know, that was originally designed for a lot of our custom rehab customers who, you know, you may put out 10 quotes, but only 2 become actual orders. And so you kind of wanted to keep those out of your order area. Okay, there is also a quote tab in the customer itself. You know, again, if you have the quoting module. Can you say more than one shipping address for a patient? Yes and no. The ability to say more than one shipping address is a part of our distributor package. So if you have the distributor package, yes. If you don't have the distributor package, no. Calculator, okay. So Deb's talking about the calculator in the payment. I'm not sure, you know, she's asking, does it work? And so we'll just pull up a payment here and see. So I'm assuming that she's talking about here, when you press the down button, you get a calculator. And so if I type in, for example, 400 minus 300, you know, 100 gets pushed back in. So does the calculator work? You know, yes. If not, you need to let me know what you mean by that. Can we sort by the flagged status column? And I think what they're meaning by that is, for example, on the medical table, here is your status, okay? And you can see we've got a bare bar, meaning no errors, and we've got a single flag and a double flag. So let me click on that. All right, and so yes, the double red flags appear first, then the single, and then the bare flags. And that basically behind the scenes, it's really, this is a, if I remember correctly, this is a 0, this is a 3, and this is a 5. And so it's appearing in number order, which sorts it for you as well. Okay, will you be able to sort the comments by date? I think they're referring to inside of a customer. So let's go back to customer. There we go, there's Christina. All right, and comments, and yes, you can sort those by date just by click on the title, and then they're sorted. And if you double click, it's in reverse order. I think the legacy did that as well. So one click sorts it in ascending, a double click sorts it in descending. Let's see. Boy, people are putting in multiple comments and I just can't put them together in my head. So I'm just going to have to do my best here. Oh, okay. The calculator question was meant to be, will it work with the keyboard only and not having to click on it first like the old one did? To be honest, I don't know. Let's very quickly hit that and try to answer your question. And we're running out of time, so and I think that's, for example, and so I think the question here is I want to type in 400 minus 300. No, it does not do that. You do have to be in the calculator rather than just, and that is an artifact of the old calculator was basically something that we had written. It was our code. Whereas this calculator is kind of the Windows calculator. The advantage to using that is, I think it is, the advantage to using that is when Windows 12 comes out and a new calendar component with a new calendar component with a new calculator component, it will automatically be, inside the software effectively. So we tried to kind of use those existing components. I'm not exactly sure. Let me talk about this, okay? Because a lot of you are bringing up questions that I didn't think about. Please, I'll look through the list here and see if there's anything we can address. But if you have a question, if you have a suggestion for improvement, please send it, to me at wishlist, kind of like your, holiday wish list, your birthday wish list at teamdme.com. And that goes directly to me. And, I can kind of take a look at that as well. So I'm happy to look at that and address those. It is a complete rewrite. And so there's no way that we could make it, every little thing works exactly the same. And in some cases, we don't want it to work exactly the same, but we do want, you to have that same functionality. And so if there's something that you're missing, let us know. okay, to that wish list at teamdemia.com. Now, when you do that, I may shoot back at you to say, you know, what do you mean by this? Why do you need this? How is this helpful? You know, you have to be willing to, you know, to do a little back and forth to make me understand why this is important. So, you know, if you'll be patient, I'll will do my best to make sure that we get your questions and everything answered. Okay, my hour is up. I appreciate everybody for being patient with me. I've got one more poll that I'd like to do, and that is after seeing all the changes, I can't see it, what would be your favorite feature? You know, we've got a better visual appeal, you know, using the high resolution monitors, 4K, 8K, faster searching, no refreshing, the customizable grids where you can add and delete even columns now, sort those, group those. Is it the skins or the themes to choose your own colors? Or is it maybe being able to select records by users so that you don't, you know, accidentally step on somebody else's toes while you're trying to get your work done? I'll give you just a minute to answer the question there, and people are still answering, and we will close the poll and share it with everybody. All right. This is tiny on my little screen, apologize. All right, better visual appeal, got 13%. The faster searching, boy, that was a big one, 34%. Customizable grids, 26%. The skins, I'm surprised that was my favorite feature of everything, but 24% of the people said that that was what they wanted, and only 3% of the people chose selecting records by user. All right, well, I appreciate everybody for joining me today and giving us a chance to show you the new system. This webinar will be available later for people who weren't able to attend, etc., and we'll try to make that available for you. And otherwise, thank you and have a great day.